Hey y'all, it's Bart. Just wanted to jump in ahead of starting this episode to let you all know that this episode was recorded last Thursday. Caleb and I could only find time to really meet that day, and I haven't had a whole lot of chance to edit since then. So the news of Tim Ream being replaced by Walker Zimmerman and the news of John Brooks not coming to camp were not part of that discussion. Also, the fact that EPL players, or England-based players in general, would be allowed to travel to Panama had also not broken quite yet. So just note that as you go through this episode. Thanks.
Hey y'all, welcome to Soccer for Us. In this episode, we are talking about U.S. men's national team October World Cup qualifying roster. 27 players called in to represent the red, white, and blue in 3 matches in October. Gregg Berhalter has put out the list, and we are reacting to it. I'm Bart Keeler. Make sure to follow the podcast at Soccer for Us Pod and subscribe to Soccer Down Here on whatever podcatcher you are listening. Joining me in this episode, again, from USMNT Corner on Twitter, it's Caleb. Caleb, thanks for being here. How are you feeling about this roster overall?
First of all, thanks for having me. It's always good to be on. Secondly, I feel pretty good considering the competition we're going to see this window, and then just the state of our pool. Just overall, we got a lot of strong young kids coming through, and it's always exciting. So pretty good, all things considered.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Is that it's not this roster as a whole does not have bad players on it necessarily. Some people may disagree with us on that. I'm sure that we'll get some mean tweets about, a couple of players in particular. But overall, the roster doesn't have bad players. This is not a collection of bad players. I think my overall take is just that it's not a well-built roster. And we'll get into that. We have 3 matches coming up this window. You mentioned that the quality is not as high as it was, as it could be. I think there's some disappointing teams right now, both Jamaica and Costa Rica, that we play at home. We're not very good in the first window. And so that all kind of leads to a lot of confidence going into the October window. And maybe that's just, hope that we are going to be better than what we did in September. But overall, it has to be said that it needs to be better from what we saw in September, but it should be better. Right.
Absolutely. I think, I was pretty confident going into that first window, and then pretty quickly the reality set in of, these guys are talented, but guess what? They're still extremely inexperienced. And that's the players. And then also it's an extremely inexperienced coaching staff. It's their first time through. You add all that up, and what do you get? A lot of inexperience. I think that first window was kind of a wake-up call for a lot of guys. Even guys that had solid positive windows. Brendan Aronson, his first showing was not that great. But I think you get that one under your belt, and you move forward, and I think the guys did that. I think it was really important to maybe struggle a little bit, to show them where they need to improve. I think Berhalter learned a lot with his little tinkering experiment in the first half of Honduras, and realized, okay, you know what? Maybe I need to be a little bit more straightforward. Which, hello, yeah, you'd think so. So I'm looking forward to that in October. I think with all of the lessons learned, I think it'll be a little bit more of a successful business trip, if you will.
Well, and we also have 2 matches at home, which I know we only got a draw out of the Canada match, but you would stand to reason that you're going to win your home matches, or at least do well in them. And that should be helpful. We will not have as much travel this window, which is also helpful.
Mhm.
So hopefully these things are, just make for a more successful, as you said, business trip. This is this needs to be a team that dominates in the region because we should, and we need to see that. And we have 27 players that will hopefully make that happen. Let's run through it by positions. We'll pause and kind of give a couple of quick takes about each of the position groups. So goalkeepers, 3 called in: Sean Johnson from New York City FC, Zach Steffen from Manchester City, and Matt Turner from New England Revolution. Now, all 3 of these guys return in some way, shape, or form last window. Obviously, Johnson was called in after Steffen tested positive for COVID. The man removed is Ethan Horvath. He's not here. I don't have a problem with any of this. I really like Horvath, but I understand that probably Horvath and or Steffen were not going to be able to travel to Panama. So you're not bringing in 2 guys who can't go to one of the games that you're about to play. I think that this is fine. And honestly, it's going to be Turner and Steffen. And I don't think we have to worry about who number 3 is. Sean Johnson's fine.
Yeah, and with Horvath, like you said, I like him as well. But it's twofold, right? He's probably not available for Panama. And then the fact that he's in a legitimate battle for that number 1 position, whereas Steffen, right, we're like, well, he's from England too. Yeah, but is he really in a battle for that number 1 position over there? No. So leaving Horvath gives him, some opportunities to train over there and, maybe get in some good graces. You don't know, but hopefully he's training as hard as he can to make an impression, because I'd love to see him play.
Manchester City is not worried about Steffen having to go through COVID protocols to come back.
Exactly.
Let's put it that way. Whereas Nottingham Forest may with
Exactly.
Ethan Horvath.
And then Sean Johnson, good vet, probably not in the plans, but he's there just in case. I think you got to have at least one of these games go to Zach. I don't know exactly which one, but I'd like to see one. Something that's been weird for me is seeing all the takes about how, Turner's an incredible shot stopper, which he is, and then all of a sudden, by some sort of magical inverse property, Zach Steffen is not. Like, Zach Steffen's always been a good shot blocker. Is he as good as Matt Turner? Probably not, but it doesn't mean he's a bad shot blocker.
Steffen would not be at Manchester City if he weren't a great shot stopper, right? Like, you have to be. And I don't think that there's the difference is marginal. I think Turner has just had better performances that we've seen, and he's won for the most part.
Exactly.
The guy has not lost as a goalkeeper for the United States national team, so it's important. Moving on to defenders: George Bello from Atlanta United, John Brooks from Wolfsburg, Serginho Dest from Barcelona, Mark McKenzie from Genk, Shaq Moore from Tenerife, Tim Ream from Fulham, Chris Richards from Hoffenheim, Anthony Robinson from Fulham, Miles Robinson from Atlanta United, and DeAndre Yedlin from Galatasaray. Now, again, we do have 2 England-based players in the defensive core, Tim Ream and Anthony Robinson. So they won't travel to Panama. This does give me a little bit of concern, but overall, I think these defenders are fine. I'm still just over Tim Ream being on a roster, but he did at least play decently against El Salvador last time out. I think the one person people are not confused about, but Shaq Moore getting called up seemed to be the only player that people were a little bit surprised by. He hasn't played a whole lot for Tenerife. I get this, but he was a pretty good player in the Gold Cup. So I put him on my roster that I would have called up. I also would have dropped DeAndre Yedlin, but I would have called up Shaq Moore. I think he and Yedlin are very similar players, and I don't think either of them are great. So again, our right back pool, it seems like we have a lot of depth. That doesn't mean that there's a lot separating 1 from 6.
Yeah, it's an interesting group. to touch on what you just said with Yedlin and Moore, I think with Yedlin, you know exactly what you're going to get. He's going to be extremely athletic. He's going to get forward, play decently defensive, but he's going to make 2 to 3 boneheaded mistakes, and then you hope that you don't pay for him. That's pretty much every single game that Yedlin plays. With Moore, I think it's a little bit more of, you know, what else can he do? We saw him in Gold Cup, like you said, he played well. I think he earned call-ups with that, regardless of club situation. You know, numerous reasons could keep him out of the lineup there, but he showed well for us. So I think you reward him and say, you know, come on and let's see what he does. It's weird because I think, and we'll talk about it later, I'm sure, but I think Berhalter's going to treat this as play your hottest, best lineup at home. And then when you go away to Panama, you maybe use a little bit more rotation, a few of the guys that haven't played quite as much, and you say, go fight as hard as you can and, you know, try to get 3. If not, you know, get 1, but you see what happens. But you try to at least take 6 from the home matches in this window. So that being said, there's going to be rotation. The English-based guys throw a big wrench into it. I think that's why you have so many. What was it, like 5 center backs and 5 wing backs? Is that what it was?
Yeah,
The breakdown?
10 total defenders. You had 5 center backs,
exactly.
and you have 5 fullbacks. To your
And that's
point,
a lot.
I think it is, and I'm curious how the left back position plays out, because I thought Anthony Robinson earned himself this starting spot as a left back. Now,
Absolutely.
obviously, if he's not traveling to Panama, that is 90 minutes of action that you're going to have to fill if you're Berhalter. Now, does that mean that Dest becomes your starting left back there? Does that mean we're getting more George Bello? I'm curious how he sees that. Obviously, if Dest plays that match, you're probably not playing him as much in one of the other 2 matches. So that's where Yedlin and Moore do come in handy. But that's really the only concern I have in this group. The center backs, other than Ream, I have no problem with any of them really being on the field. I'm hoping that John Brooks just had a bad September and he's back to being a relatively competent defender. This window.
I mean, it was surprising. I mean, if we're being honest, Tim Ream showed better than John Brooks, which is crazy.
He did.
But I'm with you. I hope it was just kind of like a little blip. Maybe he was just dealing with some stuff, and, you know, he gets back on the grind. We'll see. He's obviously going to get the opportunity. I think versus Jamaica, you're going to see probably Anthony Robinson, John Brooks, Miles Robinson, and Serginho Dest. That's going to be your back 4. With A-Rob not playing in Panama, I think you see Bello, to be honest with you.
I kind of would like, I'm with you. I don't know why you just wouldn't play Bello.
I think he will. I mean, Berhalter showed trust in him playing him in the final against Mexico in the Gold Cup, and I think he played really well. Did he make mistakes? Absolutely, but he's a competent kid. He's extremely athletic. I think you let him go down there and fight, and you know, that's an incredible experience for a 19-year-old kid. So I think that's what you see, and I think that's Berhalter's plans. Maybe you also get to see a Richards-Robinson pairing during one of these games, which would be unbelievably exciting.
That is, I think, the one thing that I would like to see most out of this window is to see Richards and Robinson play together. And I think you have 3 matches in which you can do it. Midfielders, Kellen Acosta from Colorado, Tyler Adams from RB Leipzig, Gianluca Busio from Venezia, Luca de la Torre from Heracles, Sebastian Lletget from LA Galaxy, Weston McKennie from Juventus, Yunus Musa from Valencia, and Christian Roldan from Seattle. I am glad to see Luca de la Torre. I know I caught some flack on Twitter for not having him in my roster. I personally had Julian Green in my roster, and I'm a little sad he's not here. But I do think that Luca de la Torre and Yunus Musa combine for a nice upgrade in the midfield. I will say, last time we had 5 midfielders. This time we have 8. So
Yes.
Props to Berhalter for seeing the need to expand that particular pool of players a little bit more.
Yeah, it's, you got 2 sticks, you see one on the ground, you pick that one up, but you put the one in your hand, you put that one down. It's kind of, he dropped the ball the last window. Well, he corrected that mistake, but he dropped another ball this window.
Yeah.
As far as construction of the roster goes. But again, small nitpicky stuff. But man, I'm pumped. God, Yunus Musa, just seeing that name alone, the fact that he's fairly healthy and he's coming in, and I think that he absolutely is going to get some minutes. Now that I say that, he's not going to play, but
right.
No, I really am. I'm so pumped about Musa. He's such a fun kid to watch. I mean, he's always just smiling, and he's so energetic, so strong on the ball. Something that our central midfield has lacked. That the ability to just get his foot on the, but just kind of like the Nagby effect almost. He has that ability.
He does have a little bit of that.
You struggle to get the ball off him because he uses his body so well. He is so strong. And the fact that he's 18 is still just, it's unreal.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how both Musa and De La Torre can help, because we saw the biggest problem that this team had, and it was really creating chances, right? Through their own possession. That was the reason we struggled against Canada. It's a lot of the reason why we didn't really score against El Salvador. And ultimately, the Honduras match, I think we just it all came to I think all the frustration came out. But I'm interested to see if those 2 players can help us find more chance creation through the midfield, because we didn't have that last window. I am very eager to see a midfield of Adams, McKinney, and Musa. I think we all want that, and I really want Greg to get that to us.
I just want to see it.
Yep, we just please, and I think honestly that I think the Jamaica game would be a great game for that, because Jamaica, I don't think they're going to bunker. I don't think that's in the Jamaican mindset. They are a very get after it type of, they're a get after it type of team, and they're fast and physical in the midfield as well. So I think that midfield would do really well in that first game against Jamaica.
Look, October 7th is my birthday, and I'm so pumped. I cannot wait to watch that game and get a win, right? Just putting that out there, right? Good vibes. But I want to see, and I think Berhalter's going to try to put the strongest lineup and just come out swinging in that first match, which for me and for you, like you just said, the strongest midfield would be Adams, McKinney, and Musa. God, like I said, it's my birthday. I'd love to see it. That'd be the best birthday present. Yeah. I don't know if we're going to see it. I don't know if Berhalter's going to do that. I think we see Adams and McKinney. I don't know if we see Musa, and I'm sad about it.
Yeah. Well, he's got to play his favorite son, Sebastian Lletget. So I get it. Forwards, we have 6 of them. Brendan Aronson from RB Salzburg, Paul Areola from DC United, Matthew Hoppe from Mallorca, Ricardo Pepi comes back from FC Dallas, Tim Weah, hopefully actually makes it across the pond this time, from Lille, and Giassi Zardes comes in from Columbus Crew. Now, this is the position group I have problems with, because last time Greg said, no, we only need 5 midfielders. We're good. This time he says six forwards. We're good. We have not a lot of natural wingers, and one of those is Paul Areola, who works really hard, but I think proved in that, especially in that Gold Cup final, that other than hustling and running hard, doesn't really have a whole lot to offer anymore, to be quite honest.
Oh, I still think about that one he missed. I think it was Sargent who pressed to win the ball.
Yeah,
and it fell to Areola 1-on-1, 1v1 with the keeper.
Yep.
Remember that?
Yep.
and then didn't even challenge the keeper.
No, didn't make it on frame at all.
Didn't put it on frame. But you're right. He's going to work hard. I think that's probably why you're going to see him in Panama. And he's just going to be on that right wing working his butt off. Speaking of the wingers of the forward group, obviously the omissions of Pulisic and Reyna loom large. It's very loud. Healthy. It's sad. Sucks, but it is what it is. I think you see Aronson and Weah step up in that opportunity. We've talked about this. We talked about it way before the first window, where the first choice 11 is almost a pipe dream, right? Because it just so often fails to come together because of one thing or the other, and we're witnessing now. This is it's the reality we're living right now. Arguably the two best players on the team are out, but I think Aronson's already shown he can shoulder a lot of weight, and I think he shoulders more in this window. I'm super pumped to see what he does, because he's going to be given a ton of minutes. And then, like you said, Weah, fingers crossed, stays healthy on the plane ride over. Because I'm pumped about Weah, man. I really
I think Weah's kind of a secret to breaking down some pressing teams. He's creative enough on the ball. Mm-hmm. He makes pretty good runs behind defenses.
Mm-hmm. I think he's relentless.
Yes. That's a great way to describe how he plays. Matthew Hoppe gets the call up. I think this is especially in the forward line, the person most people are most excited to see. He had a really fun Gold Cup. Productivity wasn't probably where we wanted it to be for the Gold Cup, but he did get that game winner against, who did he get that from? Jamaica.
No. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was.
Jamaica, yes. Zarda's got the winner against Qatar. That's right. Okay. These games are
it's all jumbled together, right?
It's all, he scored a goal. I know that much. But we wanted to see more from Hoppe, and we wanted Berhalter to play him more. And so I'm hoping that he gets some good run. My concern is he's going to be played on the wing, and that's just not where he's most effective.
Right. I think he can be. He showed that he can be, but it's as a Braves fan, a little analogy would be with Snicker and Acuna, and Acuna talking about how he really likes to hit in the leadoff spot, and then what does Snicker do? Bats him like fourth, fifth, lower in the order, because he's old school and he likes the power down low. And then he puts him in the leadoff spot, and what's he do? He has, historic numbers.
Almost an MVP season, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, maybe I should have listened to the player. Yeah. Well, you got Hoppe saying, I'm a center forward, and obviously, I mean, we've all been there. You're going to do whatever it takes to get on the field. So if it's playing winger that's going to get you on the field, you're going to play winger. But he wants to be a center forward. I really hope he gets the opportunity. I don't know if he will this window, but I hope so.
Yeah, this is my concern, and this goes back to the concern I have about Gregg. Pepe, I think, earned, at least for now, the starting spot at the number 9 position. And I'm not here to say that is locked in solid, right?
Right.
But you can't tell me that Ricardo Pepi doesn't offer you the best chance to score goals when we line up against Jamaica on October 7th. But my concern is he's going to start Gyasi Zardes. And Zardes was not that productive in the Gold Cup. I mean, Zardes does a lot of things very well. Mm-hmm. He is very smooth at moving off the ball. He's very good at losing defenders. These are valid. He's good at getting in behind defenses. He has improved his link-up play and his hold-up play. He really has.
Yeah.
It's frustrating to watch him blow chances, though.
Yes.
And we don't get enough chances on this team because Gregg Berhalter's system hasn't created enough chances for us consistently. Mm-hmm. So we can't have Gyasi Zardes missing a sitter or a 1v1 with a keeper again, like he did multiple times in the Gold Cup. And he really didn't score all that much in the Gold Cup. That's the thing is he got the winner against Qatar. Mm-hmm. He scored against Haiti. I think he got that goal. And and I think he may have scored against Martinique, but I don't really count that. I'm trying to go back again. I'm trying to go back and remember all this because it's been a summer. My point is, Gyasi Zardes is not the guy who I am most confident that will, again, deliver us goals.
Yeah.
And sure, it's probably an overreaction to Pepe's performance in Honduras, but he not only scored, but he created 2 other goals. Maybe created all 3 goals. I don't know how, all 3 other goals. To me, that says something, and I'd love to see him start at the 9. I will say that also for Matthew Hoppe, if you only have Zardes and Pepe as your strikers, maybe you do get some run out at that striker position because there's just not that many guys there. I don't know. This is the position group that concerns me because we only have 3 guys who we really only have 3 guys who play on the wing. We have 4 if you want to say they have played on the wing. And then you have a couple of guys in the midfield like Roldan and Musa who could play on the wing if you want them to.
Which, Berhalter is definitely looking at that. Roldan,
I wish you wouldn't, though.
No, I agree. But that's the reality, and that's what's happened, or that's what's happening. He's thinking late in games, Roldan's going to be that sub to come in and keep pressure, and he's going to be subbed on the wing, which I'd rather him be subbed on the wing versus as a central midfielder. I don't want to see. I don't want to see Roldan as an 8 again. He's too slow. He can't progress the ball. And he's a great guy. That's just the reality of it.
And he's having a great season with Seattle. We have to admit that. But he has repeatedly not performed up to that level on the men's national team. And that's really where it comes down to is I would rather at least see someone else prove to me that they can't do that at the national team level. I've seen Roldan not really be effective at the national team level. Right. He only has no goals and 1 assist.
Right. And like what, 18, 20 caps, something like that?
More than 20 caps at this point. So that's not how you measure every single person because he does bring, like you said, hustle, and he has created turnovers. I know in Honduras especially, he created the turnover that led to our 3rd goal, if I remember that sequence correctly. Maybe the last goal. But whatever. He does do that, which is great. But again, I don't see it. The recipe to beat the United States is pretty simple, in my opinion. Park the bus and be like, hey, try to break us down. And we didn't really do that well. And so I don't think Roldan helps with that.
No, to me, he's the guy you use when you're up a goal or 2 and you're closing out a game and you need a guy to go in there and run his butt off. Right. And he's good at that. He's shown that he can do that. He had the assist to the Hoppe winner against Jamaica. That was one of those situations, though, where you didn't have a lot of answers, and he's going to run hard. He got tired legs, and he was able to make something happen. That's good, but like we just said, that's 1 assist and 20+ caps. So
if he's having a career season for Seattle, right, and he's still not really taking that on the whole to the U.S. national team, that tells me the player that he is for us. And I'm sorry, it's just I don't understand why Christian Roldan is here, but a guy like Julian Green isn't. So as we kind of, I guess we can transition right into the snubs versus surprises, right? Because I think Julian Green offers what Christian Roldan offers from an actual schematic standpoint, right? He is a midfielder who can possess the ball and progress the ball forward. He can link up with the defense to the attack. He also can play on the wing, which is another reason why I thought he would be called in, because he can play left wing.
Because I'm with you.
More than Roldan, he has experience in a World Cup, which is more than you can say for Roldan.
Yeah.
I am very surprised that Julian Green has not been a bigger part of Gregg Berhalter's plans. And I think it just goes to it builds the frustration I have with Berhalter, where he only sees soccer the way he sees soccer and has zero ability to break out of that unless he absolutely has to.
Well, I think some of it is a bit circumstantial because I think he was supposed to be on the Gold Cup roster, but because of Firth being promoted to the first division, they decided to leave him there. But I mean, there have been other opportunities, and it just hasn't been taken. And I'm not sure why. I like him. I think he deserves an opportunity. I mean, to me, if you're playing well for club and you're pushing yourself, you deserve an opportunity. Now, if you get called in and you are terrible, then okay, you had your opportunity, but at least get one. So I don't know. I know he answered some questions. Berhalter answered some questions about Joe Scally. He talked about a few others. I don't know. Did he answer anything about Julian Green or why?
So let me talk to this because I tweeted at a reporter, Meg Swanek. You can follow her on Twitter at Meg_Swanek, and she's
been doing some really good work lately.
She does really good work, and I think she's one of the people who are in that press room who aren't afraid to actually be critical.
Yeah,
and I don't mean like critical in a negative sense. Just be like critically think about what has transpired and what was said by Berhalter. And so I asked her. I said, hey, was Berhalter asked about only 30 players and like why he left some people off and not? And she said that was the second question asked. Brian Strauss of Sports Illustrated asked it, saying he was surprised there weren't 30 on the roster. And we'll talk about this in a second. Gregg's response was, quote, "In my opinion, 27 is a decent number." Okay.
Right.
And she said, he went on to say, quote, "Difficult decisions were made based on how games are playing out," whatever that means, "and depth needs in certain positions," apparently not winger.
Right.
He mentioned Pifak, Conrad, Miazga, Sands, and Zimmerman as players that were in this category of, quote, "really difficult decisions." So Green was not mentioned. It's, again, weird to me that he somehow in his mind is constricting the roster for reasons that don't make sense. When you talk about, sure, I understand maybe Pifak. You say, look, we only need 3 strikers, and you bring in Zardes, Pepe, and Hoppy. Now, Pifak is, outside of Pepe, probably the most in form of any striker we have right now, so I don't agree with that. But, you've got to get Gyasi Zardes into a roster because he's, his favorite player. He's his second favorite. No, actually, Zardes might be his favorite player, I think. I think that Sebastian Leget's his second favorite player at this point. But a guy like Conrad that makes no sense. Why is that a difficult decision? What's the pro con of bringing him in versus not? Because we need winger depth. Like I said, we have guys who, quote, can play winger, but why not just call up a guy who frickin' plays winger every single game? He came on as a winger, as a sub in a game. We're recording on Thursday in a Europa League game today. In the same game that DeAndre Yedlin played in.
Yeah.
So what metrics are we using to judge these players that somehow that's not good enough for Conrad de la Fuente, but it's totally fine for DeAndre Yedlin, especially considering that your 2 best wingers aren't able to be called up because they're hurt. So that makes no sense. Sands, I'm fine with. Whatever. He didn't play well. I don't think he's a necessary component to this. I would have called up Zimmerman over Ream just because I prefer Zimmerman to Ream. But again, that's not whatever. Right. Zimmerman got called up last time, didn't play at all.
You're talking about the bottom 2-3 guys on a roster. Yeah. It is what it is. The only thing I can think of as far as not calling it a guy, they said something about he's taking in club situations.
I don't give a shit. I'm sorry.
So that's my thing, right? I can understand the sentiment, right? Like if you are going to bring a guy in and that he's only going to get maybe 15, 30 minutes across.
But you don't know that. That's what bothers me about this Berhalter
exactly.
thing. Is he says, "Oh, well, we're seeing the games play out." Gregg, did you frickin' see the Canada game playing out that way? Because clearly you didn't. If you would have, you would have known that Canada was frickin' gonna bunker. That's sorry, I'm getting really worked up. But that's what bothers me. He is this is not Lane Kiffin scripting 10 plays to start a damn quarter. Okay? This is a game of soccer where you cannot predict what's going to happen on the field. You plan and you prepare for all scenarios, and you try to put out the best team with the best schematic vision to execute.
Well, and so
how do you know you're not going to need Conrad for more than 10 minutes?
And that's the thing. Like, if you bring a roster when you're not limited, bring a roster for the worst case scenario. If you don't use them, you don't. If you don't use them, you don't use them.
That happened last window.
Exactly.
It happened before we started. So
that's my point. Like, I can understand the reasoning and sentiment, but at the end of the day, guess what? Whether, club situation, and we don't want to bring them if they're not going to play. Who cares? I don't care. It's a FIFA window. They can't say no. We're trying to qualify for a World Cup. That's what matters.
That I don't.
And if they're playing
Borussia Mönchengladbach, I don't care about Marseille.
I don't care about Marseille.
And that's not Berhalter's job to care about them either. Sorry, it's not. Now the only clubs that I kind of like, the Horvath thing I get, right? That is because he literally cannot play a match in this window for like actual government legal reasons.
Yep.
That I get.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's the only time that I'm like, okay, yeah, I got you. Exactly. And that's, again, our third string goalkeeper who we have.
Exactly. Exactly.
I just do not understand why he says they're really difficult decisions. And I'm like, you don't have to make this decision. What decision are you making?
Decision. Right.
Is the decision to call him in or not? Like, you're not calling in someone over him? Like, what?
I honestly don't get it.
Is 27 players enough? This is my question. Is 27 enough?
I mean,
we needed 28 last window, by the way. I will point that out because we called in 26.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Weah got injured. We had to send Stefan and McKinney home.
Mm-hmm.
And we called in 2 guys to replace both of them. So in total, we had to use 28 players. So he even called in fewer players than we had to have than when he called in for the roster last time, all in total. So it's 27 enough.
I don't understand. Unless he's thinking, we can have Georgi Mihailovic and Walker Zimmerman there in this, in a snap.
Greg Velasquez joked on the Scuff Pod that Walker Zimmerman probably just has like a USMNT go bag ready to, he's waiting on by the phone.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, surely Jackson Ewell does at this point. He's the first call that he's making.
God. Jeez. I still, honestly, I feel like the fact that he was called in last window was just a straight up troll job. Like, Greg had no intention of playing that kid, but he's like, hey, guys, look, let's just call him in. Let's watch Twitter.
Hey, Greg, we don't have we only have one right back healthy on the roster. Yeah, we'll call in a central midfielder.
Call in Yule.
This is what frustrates me about Greg is, again, like, he has all, like, he's clearly smart because he builds up all these scenarios and he pre-thinks all this, but then he says, well, this is the only way to do it. And it's like, bro.
It's such a weird conundrum for me. Like, because I like the guy. Like, when you listen to him talk, he's very, he's well thought out. He seems like a cool guy that the guys really like. But then his roster selection drives
constantly terrible.
Insane. Drives me insane.
Look at the Gold Cup.
I know.
What's a winger? We don't need wingers. Paul Ariel is a winger.
Yeah.
Like,
we'll pretend. Like, what? Is that something you learn when you get your B or A license?
Right.
Something, because I'm not there yet. Maybe I just haven't learned.
I don't think 27 is enough. And again, because we had to officially bring in 28 players in total to camp throughout the entire window last time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, like, I will say that I do think that it's not like a limit, but it is a matter of just logistics of anything more than 30 is a lot of players to have to manage and bring in data on and all that kind of stuff. I understand that to some extent, but like the Joe Scally question, I think is the one that a lot of people have. And I personally would have brought in Joe Scally because we know he can play right back.
Yeah.
And we know that he can kind of play left back. I don't want to have to use him there, right? But people like I was going back and forth with the guy, and he's like, "Well, you have to consider the club, and he's trying to fight for a spot there." I'm like, "No, he's not. He's not fighting for a spot there. He's starting."
Yeah.
At Borussia Mönchengladbach. No, I get that he is not the locked-in starter because there are injuries ahead of him. But back to my point, I don't care about the club. I don't care about Borussia Mönchengladbach. They're not my club. I don't care.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating because for me, even if you're not going to play him, at least get his feet wet. Because if you do think that he's part of your future, which I do, I think he is, and Berhalter thinks he is
How
too.
can he not be part of your future? He's a starting right back in the Bundesliga.
And he's playing fairly high level for how young he is. But my thing is, bring him in, get him integrated, get his feet wet, let him get a taste of CONCACAF away, even if he doesn't play.
Right.
That way, when you do need him next year or the year after or whatever, I mean, he's part of the future. Just like, I don't understand. What's the downside?
Yeah. Is it, I mean, and this is, and you touched on it, the downside is, he doesn't actually play, or, we brought him all the way across the pond for nothing. And I'm just like, I don't think it's nothing. Because to your point, he's gotten into the camp. He's become accustomed with the people that he's playing with, and he's become accustomed with the guys in the group already. He's learned a little bit about Berhalter's system. Berhalter has learned about him as a player. I don't see any of that as a negative, even if he doesn't play, because if he doesn't play, you go, look, we have DeAndre Yedlin and Serginho Dest. But we thought Scally would offer cover at this or this. And this is where it's like, you're not planning for things to go wrong. You're only planning for the ideal. And in Berhalter's head, only the ideal needs to be considered, which is, again, an issue that I've had with him from the start. If he only does plan A, he has zero idea of plan B possibly happening. Plan B in the scenario is Dest gets hurt again. Sorry to put this out in the world, but he got hurt last camp, where he has been playing, but it's still an ankle injury. You don't know how those creep up on you.
Mm-hmm.
Robinson can't go in Panama. So now we're just, expecting that to be good enough. We're limiting ourselves arbitrarily. And that's just where I go back, is why are we making difficult decisions about guys like Pifak, who, again, is in the best form of any striker we have right now? Why are we limiting ourselves to making hard decisions about Conrad de la Fuente, who, I'm not going to say he's the best winger we have. He's not. Or even maybe top 5. I don't know what that depth chart looks like, but he's a guy who plays winger every week, and you don't have a whole lot of those on this roster. Why not call him in? Why are we not calling in a guy like Joe Scally just because? Why not? Why are we not bringing in a guy like Julian Green? Because, hey, he probably can offer you something more than Christian Roldan. Oh, maybe he doesn't hustle as much. You know what? He can take a damn good set piece, and he's really good at connecting defense to offense with passing, which is what we've struggled with.
Yeah, to me, it's Conrad and Green. Those are my two biggest, because if Pulisic and Reyna were healthy, they're 100% in camp. So is he dropping two of the guys that are in this roster to keep it at 27, or is he bringing 28, 29? Is he just dropping one? I mean, what's he doing there, right? So my thing is, Conrad would be the Pulisic replacement, and Green would be the Reyna replacement. You got a guy who can play wing, central midfield in Green. You got a guy who's going to play wing in Conrad. You only have, like we talked about it, you only have Aronson and Weah as far as like quick, tricky, traditional, get after it wingers, and then you're going to play Hoppy there.
Yeah.
Why not?
And you have Areola, who's just not like.
Yeah, I just looked over Areola. Yeah, why not bring Conrad? Why not bring Conrad? Yeah. It makes no sense.
Yeah. And so Julian Green has only really been a part of one camp for Berhalter. That was this. He was on the bench for the Switzerland match in May, right? He got the beginning of the Nations League camp, but he didn't actually, he wasn't really part of camp.
Right.
He hasn't played for the U.S. since 2018. Maybe Berhalter just doesn't rate him, which again,
maybe
just calls into question Berhalter's ability to evaluate what players fit his system and what it's not even the system, it's what players will help us win matches in this setup.
Yeah, I mean, when you watch guys, because we're not in camp, we're not in training, we don't see that, but we see what's on the field, we see the final product, and we watch guys like Roldan, Leggett, and Green, and you can't tell me that Roldan and Leggett are worlds better than Green.
Right.
They're not.
Especially when he gives an idea, a bullshit answer of like, oh, well, form. Well, whose form are you evaluating? Because you're not evaluating Sebastian Legett's form. You're not evaluating Paul Areola's form. You're not really evaluating Giassi Zardes' form because he's not in great form. To call him up over PFOC.
Right.
Or
they get calls just no matter what, right? Doesn't matter what form they're in, they're getting calls.
It infuriates me that Christian Roldan is pinned into the roster. I'm okay with Leggett. I don't love it, but I'm like, okay, whatever, fine, Leggett. At least he, on the off chance, can score a goal. Christian Roldan has 1 assist. 1. And it was a Hail Mary hope and just a bang, a Hail Mary cross to Hoppy.
Yeah, no, I don't.
So
I don't get it.
All right, let's get a 1-word evaluation of this roster.
1 word.
I'll give you maybe a sentence. Let's not do 1 word. I'll give you a sentence.
Okay.
A short sentence.
Well, the first word that popped into my head, and I don't love it, but I can kind of explain it. The first word that popped in my head was confused.
Yeah.
And it's, not necessarily a negative word. It's not a positive word. And it's kind of what we've been talking about, right? It's fine. The roster is fine because of the default state of our player pool. We've got a lot of talent coming in. So
exactly.
Boom.
Christian Roldan is still better than a lot of other players in CONCACAF. This is a fact, right? Right.
And so that's the thing. By default, we have a good competitive roster. But that being said, there's just the constant questioning of, why this guy, why not that guy, which I think there always will be, but it just seems to be like common sense type stuff that we wonder about. Like, it seems like there's always a lack of wingers when there doesn't need to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think confused is a fair way to look at this because, like you said, it's nothing about it is necessarily bad. Like, no player on this roster is like, wow, they're bad.
Right.
Again, I do not personally like Christian Roldan on the national team, but I cannot say he is a bad player.
Exactly.
Because I've seen him play in MLS.
Yeah.
I've had him on my MLS fantasy team multiple times.
Sure.
Like, he's not a bad player. But it's confusing why we just make the decisions we've made that we didn't have to make.
Yeah, absolutely.
My word is incomplete because I feel like this roster, I look at it and go, that's it? It is self-inflicted problems. And that's where I just keep coming back to Berhalter creates all of his own problems.
If Aronson, fingers crossed, knock on wood, if Aronson or Weah or Hoppy get hurt, I will
he has
be
to call
very
in something.
interested. Well, yeah, he's
Right.
going to have to. And dear God, if he calls in Yule again. But I'll be interested to see what he does, right? He talked about the fact that it's unlikely, but he wouldn't rule out the possibility of having Pulisic or Reyna back in camp.
Right.
I don't see it
I'm not hopeful
happening.
for those.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I don't
fine.
see it happening.
They're hurt, y'all.
I-
Like actually hurt.
Absolutely. To me, if you need a winger, I'm calling in Georgia Mihailovic. I
Sure.
think he's been playing really well for Montreal. He knows the system. He knows the guys. It would be a fairly smooth integration. So that's where I would go. Hopefully it doesn't happen. But to me, because of the limited roster, the incomplete roster, like you just said, if one of those guys gets hurt, that's the move we will be forced to make.
Mm-hmm. I honestly would bring in. I do like the Mihailovic shout. I think that would be a good one. I would consider Jesus Ferreira.
Oh, I love Jesus Ferreira. I just
because if that happens, you know what I'm saying?
He would be more of a Reina type winger.
Yes.
And I'd be perfectly fine with Jesus Ferreira. I really like Jesus Ferreira. But when you're looking at MLS, your winger options are pretty thin, which is why
weird, right?
Which is why you would have brought in Conrad, then you wouldn't have this conversation.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Let's look at these 3 games that we have in this window. So 3 matches, 2 at home, 1 on the road. Before we do that, I do want to set the stage with the standings because I think it's important to, again, assess that, yes, I think September's window was disappointing, but it was not catastrophic by any means. And in fact, because of the result in Honduras, we came out sitting pretty well.
Yeah.
So right now we have Mexico top of the table with 7 points. Canada is second with 5 points and a +3 goal differential. They have basically they're level with everything on the U.S. We're technically in third in a qualifying spot, 5 points, +3 goal differential.
Mm-hmm.
Panama is in fourth, who we play second in this window, but they are in fourth with 5 points as well. But they have not scored as many goals, basically. But they've been really good defensively. And with not losing to Mexico is a pretty impressive feat.
Yeah.
Costa Rica is in fifth. They have 2 points. They only got 2 draws in the window and a loss. Honduras with 2 points. El Salvador with 2 points is in seventh. And then Jamaica is at the bottom with 8 points. Now, Jamaica got done dirty by the red list rule in the UK.
Right.
We will, I think, be able to see their, quote, full strength roster. I still don't trust Jamaica in a full qualifying campaign. They haven't proven me that. But we play Jamaica on Thursday, October 7th in Austin. I will be at that game. You will be celebrating your birthday.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that combination of good luck comes to fruition. What are your expectations for the Jamaica game? They should, like I said, in theory have their available roster available for that game. We shouldn't have to worry about COVID restrictions or anything. What are you looking for in that game?
I think we're going to try to come out as strong as possible, right?
I think you have to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for a lot of reasons, right? You won't be able to do it in the second game in Panama, so go ahead and
by default, unfortunately,
start strong, right? So you won't have your strongest there, so go ahead and start strong here. Another reason is you want to start the window off on the right foot, and then the second is the fact that you've got 2 at home, so you expect to win those. So if you start your strongest in the first game, then you can go to Panama, have a little bit of rotation, rest some of those guys, and then come back for that third game in the window, and then try to put out, again, the strongest lineup possible. So I think it just kind of lends itself to work that way.
I think Jamaica is the most winnable game we have in this window. Mm-hmm. And that's why I put out my strongest roster to be like, no, we are winning this game and we're winning it by a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
It does,
don't mess around.
Yeah, and to your point of starting strong, we didn't start well against El Salvador. I don't think the El Salvador game was as bad as some people make it out to be.
It wasn't.
I thought it was it wasn't perfect. It wasn't good. It was like, okay, fine, whatever. You know, it again, my thought is we didn't play for a tie. We played to win, and we just didn't win.
Right.
But we didn't lose, so I'm okay with that. I think Jamaica, you need to come out there and try to absolutely pummel them because you, in theory, are more talented than Jamaica. You did beat them in the Gold Cup with a vastly less quality roster. Although some of those guys are on this roster, that Gold Cup roster was not as talented. I think you have to come out strong. And then I think against Panama, you obviously have to rotate because of the UK problem. But it gives you freedom to rest more guys so that then you can come back home and really, again, Costa Rica's not good. They are old. That'll be the third game of the window. That's your opportunity to play guys who maybe a little bit younger, maybe a little bit quicker, whatever you want to say. But like that's your opportunity to not rotate, but like go back to that strong roster and say, okay, run them down.
Well, and I think you got to look at guys like Tyler Adams, right? He played. I mean, he was an Ironman in the first window.
He played all 200. He and Miles playing all 270 is not. That can't happen.
I don't think you. I mean, Miles maybe depending on how much work he's getting.
He's played every minute. Did you hear? Were you at the Atlanta United game?
No.
Last night? Okay. I was there and like I saw that stat come up and I hadn't realized this. Miles Robinson played every minute of the Gold Cup and every minute of the September window, as well as for the most part playing every minute for Atlanta United.
Yeah, he
got one game off.
Match. Yeah, exactly. Which I mean, he's an absolute stud. And that's why I said, you know, if you go, if you start Miles in Jamaica and let's say it's a cakewalk. I'm not predicting that it will be. I'm just saying if that were to happen, then you could continue to play him. But if he's got heavy minutes on his legs, then I'd say you even rotate Miles.
Sure. I think you should. You have 5 center backs.
Exactly. And it's not like the other guys are a huge drop off. You could play Brooks and Miles against Jamaica and then play Richards that'd be a young.
I don't know if I'd throw Richards in Panama. I would almost put Richards and Miles in that first game so that Richards' first taste of CONCACAF can be next to Miles. Because I think Richards is the heir apparent to the John Brooks role, personally.
I do too. Absolutely.
I know he is probably maybe a little more comfortable at a right back or center back role, but like I think he can fill into that. So yeah. All right. Okay. So then we have Jamaica on the 7th, Panama Sunday, October 10th. I think you and I both agree that this is the rotation game.
Yep.
Go down there again, play to win.
Yep. Absolutely.
Understand that this is the game that you can rotate some players. Panama's still good. If you get a win, fantastic. If you get a draw, great.
Yep.
If I'm saying this now, if you lose, but you're playing in a way that is set up to win, it's going to happen. The world. Panama's good.
Right. So we're not
maybe not good. They're fine.
We're not going to go through the entire World Cup qualifying process and not lose a game. It's going to happen.
Especially on the road. Right.
So if it happens, it happens. It's not the end of the world, especially if you take the 2 at home during this window. But you know, I think it's important to realize that our depth is better than just about every other team in the conference. So if you look at Honduras, I forget which analyst they were that was talking about this, but basically we kind of broke them down because they were on fumes, but we had the subs to make that were better quality and could still impose our will.
Yeah.
And it showed. They had nothing left.
Yeah.
And so I think even if we're going to go down to Panama and rotate, it's not like we're not rotating with trash. We're not scraping the bottom of the barrel here. We're still putting out guys like, you know, we talked about Bello probably going to see left back in Panama. I mean,
fine. Bello, he didn't play
a
great.
Solid left back.
Yeah, he didn't play great in Honduras, but
we're talking about a kid who's, you know, he's about to go to Europe. Like this is a solid kid. So, you know, if we rotate, like you said, it's still looking for 3 points and I think we will play that way.
Yes.
And then you take what comes. But I'm looking for a very successful window.
I think so. Then we have Wednesday, October 13th at home against Costa Rica. I do think that one's in Columbus. I think that is another one where, similar to Honduras, we should be looking at a big victory because Costa Rica is old. They are not very deep anymore.
Exactly.
We need to take advantage of that.
It could be the exact same situation as the Honduras match, especially because there was less rotation in the first window. If we have more rotation this window, then you have a lot more fresh legs coming into that Costa Rica game. So, I think 5 points is the minimum. I'm looking for 7.
I think 7 is. I think 6 is the minimum. 7 is.
Yeah.
You have to. I think 7 would be great. 9. I think 9 is available. I think 9 points are available for everyone.
9 is absolutely within the realm of possibility.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, let's go get 9 points.
It's easy. You know what? It's done. Just put it down. Put it in.
All right. Well, Caleb, I appreciate you joining me for this discussion again, as always. Where can we find you and follow your takes on the social medias?
On the socials, USMNT Corner. Find me. Talk to me. I posted about desserts today. It's not always just about soccer. Sometimes it's a little bit fun.
And it is fun. And definitely go follow him at USMNT Corner. Follow us at Soccer for Us Pod and subscribe to Soccer Down Here to get all the content that comes across the SDH network. Caleb, appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. I'm Bart. I'm out.